Well, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? And I think, most of the guys that I run into, they're grinders, they're pushing cars through. That's what they're thinking about. And all of a sudden they get to be about my age and they kind of look up from under the hood. And they go, holy crap. Like, what am I going to do? Do I sell the business? Do I, my kids take it over?
Right.
Will they run it? They're going to run it to the ground. What am I going to do for income? Do I still want to be a part of the business? And so we can help them to identify these things. And it's really about, it's interesting. I always say my position is probably 10% financial planning and advising and 90% psychology, because it's easy to put the financial picture is putting the pieces of the puzzle together, right, but it's getting into people's heads and hearts that's what's really going to drive them. And that's really what I want. That's what I'm passionate about, is really helping people to identify what's truly important in their lives. And then how can we help them to accomplish it?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That gave me the goosebumps.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
No, because it just resonates. It's so true. If your heart's not in it, then what the heck are we doing here?
Exactly.
Okay. So we talked about what differentiates you, Matt, from other financial advisors. So what's something that shops maybe should be doing or should be thinking about doing right now? Somebody listening right now, what's something that you would recommend that they start or do?
Yeah. Wow. It's interesting. And I think this applies to most family businesses, is that the family never really has a conversation about what they want their lives to look like, what their legacies want to be, what roles do they fill within this family vision that they have. And then how does the business fit into that? And, it's interesting. I remember one time having one of these meetings that I was running for a client, and it was amazing because the wife came up to me after the meeting and she says, thank you for doing this, because Jeff, the owner, his dad and uncles never allowed him to have any input. And so I think it's an important thing for everybody to get on the same page. So that's really the starting point. I think to have a family meeting. Now, there's one caveat to all of this is I would recommend having a trusted advisor to sit in on the meeting to help to moderate and ensure that everybody's having input, whether it's me or somebody else, a CPA, a family attorney, or just whatever trusted advisor is there that can help to facilitate these meetings. Because I have had families that, we're going to do this. And then it's like, okay. And then they went and did it themselves and it blew up, because what happens a lot of times, and I'm going to hammer the guys on this one, is usually dad runs the meeting and dad wants to control the meeting. And then there's animosity because, not everybody feels like they have their input. So that's probably the biggest piece of value. Talk to the family. The families need to get together and talk and kind of create a vision for themselves, as to what they want individually, collectively, and then how the business fits into that. Because again, maybe it's not the business that is part of this for everybody, but maybe there's some family members, they want the business, others want to do other things. And how can we incorporate this all into a great vision?
Right. And I
think that's what real value is.
Yeah. I see a lot of business owners that are family run, family operated, that have this vision of what they want. And they assume that everybody else knows what that is because, you've told this person, you told that person or whatever. But I think having a sit down meeting could be so valuable because it allows them to really share with everybody all at once what they're wanting to do, what their goal is, what their plan is. But like you said, which is so important, also getting the feedback to make sure, is everybody else in alignment with this? Because maybe John, the father, wants Bobby Joe, the son, to take it over. And Bobby Joe's like, hey, that's not what I want to do. But then the cousin is in the meeting and says the cousin's like, I'll take it over. What do we need to do? What does that look like? But you don't know until you have a conversation, right?
Exactly. And what else is interesting is I usually recommend having spouses involved in these meetings too, because, spouses have a lot of impact on their, on the other partner. Yeah. And so they could be in this meeting without the spouse, all of a sudden come back with these big ideas, but now the spouse hasn't had any input. And now again, there's animosity there. And that's why like my podcast, I titled it, your business, your business, your life, because they all intertwine.
Totally.
They all intertwine. And what affects our business affects our life, and what affects our life affects our business. So the more we can start to iron out these little these creases that are in the, in that big plan, the smoother things will go. And it makes it much more, it makes it much easier to implement a plan then when they're looking either to exit or to transition the business or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that about the spouse thing, because, I've seen it and I've experienced it, where my husband comes home, hey, guess what? And it's like, no, what?
yeah. You didn't ask me about that.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about this. What do you mean? So I think that's really important. And I think, when you and I had talked earlier, you had said something along the lines of have the meeting, but have people that are not even necessarily involved in the business, that are just part of the family, involved in the meeting also.
Exactly. I mean, it's like I said earlier, my tagline is aligning families and businesses for generational wealth. And it's funny because I think most business owners, and especially shop owners, never think about that next step. But when you start to plant the seed about this idea of we can create generational wealth, we can create something that will last for many, many generations, all of a sudden the light goes off and it's like, I like that.
Yeah. I do. I like that a lot. Well, and we talk about, you've heard it on other podcasts of mine where we talk about buy-in from employees and how, how your staff buy-in is so important for culture. No different really than what you're talking about with family. You got to have the buy-in. Everybody's got to be in, all on the same page, reading from the same book. Otherwise you got people doing all kinds of craziness.
Right, exactly. It's funny. You talk about reading books, and there's a shop owner who he's a voracious reader, and he has his team members they all read the same book every month, and they get together once a week and discuss the book. And I was just with another shop owner of mine just on Friday, and I was telling him, you should get your guys to be reading this book. Well, I can't get my guys to read a book, and so I told him this story, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, you mean there's another shop owner that got guys to read books? And it's like, it can happen. It can happen.
Yeah, it can happen. I think that's a great idea. It's tough, but again, it's the buy-in and what value is it bringing. But that is a great little tip to have everybody read, especially when you've got like management staff, if they can all read a similar type of leadership book, that type of thing. I can imagine how powerful that could be. Well, that's another takeaway. Boom. There you go.
That's right. That's right. It's all about culture, and it's culture within the business, and it's also culture within the family.
Yeah. I love that. Perfect.
Governs how you run your business and how you operate. And so that integrity piece of knowing that this is how you're going to operate your business, and this is how you're going to put that first. If you don't have that, if you just start out thinking of, it's a GPA, is what I was submitting to everybody. All you got to do is have an F, and it takes you forever to get that GPA back up to an acceptable level.
Right.
And I go into the higher that you're up in your organization, you are held to a higher standard of how you operate. And so if you're in the leadership of your organization, you're graded tougher. Your scale, you're graded. Yeah, that's just the way it is. And a lot of times when people move along up within an organization, they lose sight of that, and they think they can always be kind of like they were, but that's not the truth. The higher up you get, the tougher you're graded. So we definitely got into that, and I will tell you, to jump back a little bit, one of the earlier ones that we talked a lot on was it's being shareholder intimate. That really is taking care of yourself as the business owner, or whoever you has the ownership stake in it. And I think the big key in that is that I was emphasizing our businesses that really understand that a lot of people talk about being different than everyone else, but you have to, if you've identified your customer and then you really develop a market to where there's not 16 others of you. That's the key point, is finding when you're sitting in these sessions with a Kristen, with a Mike Anderson, a Mark Olson, a David Lures, and all that type of stuff, and others that are adequately speaking at this event, it's important for you to listen to the insight or other business, if you're in business groups or any of that, and to try to find out if there's a way that you can create a market or a niche where you don't have a lot of competition. Yeah, you might, some of the rest of your stuff might be lower margin, but basically, whenever you're running a business, you're creating Y% of value. There's not a collision repair that doesn't end up delivering a car back. So everybody creates value. Some people are told they don't create value, but you create value.
Right.
The question at the end of the day is how much of that value do you get to keep? And that is what X% of that. Well, that X% of that value that you get to keep varies greatly on whether or not you're in a competitive market or you've been able to make a market where there's not a lot of competition for you.
Right.
So your better businesses, in my opinion, figure out a segment that they can compete in to where they don't have as much competition. But anyway, we got into the fun of how people position themselves and will argue that they're in a competitive market or not. And people like to say they're unique. And the example I gave, I stole from Peter Thiel, was somebody that says that they were an English restaurant in Palo Alto, California. So they had this really tight market and they were great in it. The truth of the matter is you could drive 20 miles away and find a restaurant from other cities nearby. And how many people eat English food all day long and all week? So in other words, you can define your market to where you think you're really great, but it really isn't a big market to be great in. So, but anyway, but we had a lot of fun. That a lot of people like that, where you have a definite advantage in a particular segment.
But the biggest topic, I think, was just employees, which is a huge hot hitting topic for all of us in the industry, is trying to find and then retain people, good people.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. The core of our business, since we started Elite Body Shop Solutions in 2014, our primary focus has been on operational management aspects of your business.
Yeah.
And we're successful at that. We've done a great job. But what we're noticing is, because so many people are complaining they can't find the help they need, they're becoming less and less interested in the operational teaching that we have. For kind of selfish reasons, we said, look, if we're going to continue to grow our business, we need to do something about this. Somebody's got to take some action and get these shops the education they need, the leadership education that they need to build what we like to call a magnetic business model.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Magnetic business model. How perfect.
We call it a magnetic business model.
Yeah, I love that. So talk on that a little bit.
Sure. So a few years ago, I created, with some amazing people, the Collision Industry Conference invited me, and my friend Jeff Peavy, I was complaining to him about the talent shortage. Why isn't anybody doing anything about this?
Right.
And I got volunteered to be the chairman of a new committee called the Talent Pool Committee. So yeah, I kind of complained my way into a position.
There you go.
Right. And so I met, all these amazing people from all over the country that are working very, very diligently with schools, with young people, trying to get them interested in our trade.
Yeah.
Right. But I realized something through this. A new picture began to emerge. And it was this, right? We're attempting to push these younger generation of people into an industry that isn't culturally a good fit for most of our shops.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, we're only attempting to solve half the problem. We have to take personal responsibility as shop owners if we want to attract these people.
Yeah.
Right. So you heard of the Great Resignation, right?
Yeah.
Millions and millions of people are leaving their crummy jobs. And the highest percentage of these people leaving were leaving due to a toxic work culture. Right.
Yeah.
So we discovered that there are some shops that seem to be not affected by the so-called talent shortage.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
Right. So when I wrote The Secrets of America's Greatest Body Shop, it was a book about what we call outliers. The people that don't seem to struggle with the same thing as all the people over here.
Yeah.
So we found some outliers that you ask them about their talent shortage and they go, what talent shortage? I got all the people
Right.
I can handle, right?
Right.
I'm like, okay, we need to bottle this up and teach these guys what we're doing. So I got all excited about this because there are practical things that a shop owner can learn to make themselves magnetic, just like these outliers.
Mm-hmm.
We call them the 5 key elements of a magnetic business.
All right. Give it to us.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. So the first one is meaningful work. So the best shops out there connect the work they're doing, no matter what it is, replacing a fender, washing a car, writing an estimate. They connect the actual work to a noble cause.
Yes. Yes.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. 100%.
Right. So people nowadays are looking for more meaning in their work.
Yeah. Yeah. But
and it could be
to
something
fill them beyond just completing a job.
So sometimes it's connecting the dots for them that the work that they're performing is making someone else's life a little bit better. Yeah. That's meaningful work.
Yeah.
Right? Another way that you can accomplish this is by simply helping a company bring its vision to life. Right? Leadership needs to articulate well what the company's vision is because it gets people excited about being a part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So the second thing is acknowledgement. People being recognized so they understand, that they matter, right? They say, well, the work that we do here matters. Then do I matter to the meaningful work?
Yes.
And so we have to do a much better job recognizing people as individuals to make sure they know that they are contributing to the meaningful work.
Yeah. Right? I think that's really powerful.
Right?
Yeah.
And the other one that's overlooked, and I'm surprised how many shops don't leverage this opportunity, but we call the third key element is measurement. Because all of the highest performing people I've ever met crave measurement. They want to know how well they're performing, right?
Yeah.
And shops do a crummy job for the most part of giving that kind of feedback. I want to know how I'm performing. In the old days, it was kind of a joke. It's like, well, I know I'm doing okay because the boss hasn't yelled at me today.
I still have a job. I must be doing something. I
still have a job. Must be doing good. Right? So that's a crummy way to measure, how well you're performing. So there's a lot of ways that businesses can gamify, measure, and because we find that teams that know the score have more fun at work.
Totally.
And they work much harder.
Yeah. You know who does that really well is the dealership industry. That side of the automotive industry.
Numbers coming out that you know what.
Yeah. And they really, like in sales meetings, that kind of stuff, they talk about the numbers so that you kind of know where you stand. And they have like a leaderboard at some dealerships and things like that to incentivize the staff, not by some monetary anything, but because people want to win and they want to do better. Just, inherently most people. Yeah. So I think it's really powerful. I agree with you.
Some, not to plug my own product here, but we created a thing that a lot of people will be interested in called the Body Shop Toolbox, bodyshoptoolbox.com.
Okay.
It's an entire scoreboard for shops that show all the most important KPIs and how they're measuring relative to those things, because we think measurement is a super important element. They're all important, but being able to understand how well we're performing as an individual and as a team is absolutely critical these days.
I love that. I'm going to link that in the description so people can check it out.
Yeah, bodyshoptoolbox.com.
Okay,
little
cool.
plug there.
Yeah.
But we're super excited about this tool because there's nothing like it out there.
Yeah.
And
and then people don't have to try to go invent something, because that's part of the problem is like, that sounds really good, but how do I do that? What does that look like?
And the shop owner doesn't have to do a thing. They just have to look at the screen and then take action.
Perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
But number 4 is teamwork. There's a lot of evidence that suggests that especially the younger generations much prefer working in a team environment where the entire team takes ownership over projects, as opposed to the way most body shops are set up, where individuals take ownership over a project.
Right.
And we believe very strongly with the complexity of modern vehicles that we're going to have to take more of a specialist approach and build almost like pit crew style.
Yeah.
Pit crew style production models.
Right.
Yeah. And
cool.
I'm actually excited about the future. I think this is something that we've needed for a long time. It's just, it's always been silly to me to have our brain surgeons taking bumpers off.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. And even our journeyman, the journeyman body guy that's been doing this for 30 years has a lot of skills he's going to need to learn. Right. I don't, in other words, I don't think it's practical to get one guy that knows how to do everything from A to Z on a modern vehicle.
Yeah. It doesn't sound very efficient.
Mechanics, right? There's so much going on here.
Oh, yeah.
And we need specialists.
After hiring Barrett, I think that I do what most body shop owners do when they call. I mean, I get a decent amount of phone calls myself through social media asking how to do something. And it's almost like everyone's wanting this magic pill, this
quick fix.
Yeah, this quick fix. And, I was no different, right away. I'm like, okay, Barrett, what button do I have to push? Or what sequence of things? And he just quickly trained me. So it's not an overnight deal. You have to learn how to manage a customer's expectation. You have to know, how to repair cars correctly. How you're going to have to know what the laws are around repairing cars. And you're going to have to be educated to help as a consumer advocate when your customers are being pursued or taken advantage of by insurance companies. And yet you're also going to have to learn where the line is, that you're just a humble service provider. You're not their attorney. You're not their lawyer. You run. And something that Barrett has always told me is, you got to take care of mother business, because mother business can't take care of herself. And too many times in my past, and too many times I've seen other body shop owners almost sacrifice their own business to try to help their consumers. And what really ends up happening is you're not helping anybody. People, both the business and the consumer end up losing out, and it's a terrible deal. So it was a lot of work. Today I just got a phone call from another body shop owner that's just hiring Barrett, and it's like, stuff takes time. It takes a lot of hard. You got to put your head down and go after it. I spent one of the things that I did is for an entire year I studied comedians and pastors.
Really?
To have good customer service as an independent body shop that has an insurance company that's consistently combating you or combating what you're saying. You have to gain the trust of your customers, but you have to be able to communicate to them and know and read when they're engaged and when they're not. And I loved watching good comedians know and study a room and be able to engage for an entire hour or 2 hours. Same thing with a good pastor. A good pastor. I don't know. And again, like, you have to learn everybody's personality type and how to communicate to that. When I talk about, let's say a 65-year-old lady with a Honda Civic, I'm probably going to have to talk to her a little bit different than the 18-year-old with the Ford Mustang.
Yes.
And I think that's something that a lot of body shop owners miss out on, including myself. I just thought, well, as long as I know how to repair cars and I've got the contract signed and I've got my, cover my ass paperwork taken care of, I should be good. And then I complain when it goes south. Well, you got to learn the same thing that the insurance companies are learning. They learn how to communicate and how to sell and persuade to a customer. The only difference, though, is that we have the truth on our side. So we literally easier on our side. We just have to learn how to communicate correctly.
Right. Now, when we're talking about different shops out there that feel like, because right now, as you know, most all shops are so busy, they're booking out. And so it's not the way it was before, where we're dying for cars to come in the drive. And, people were ringing my phone off the hook. Now, not so many calls because they're so slammed, right? But they think because they're busy that they're profitable. It kind of goes back to what you're saying before. Busy, cars lined up down the street, but I got nothing in the bank. Or you have some decent money in the bank, but does that actually making you profitable? And and again, to what you said, so a car's coming in, because I don't want to burden the customer, the guest, I'm just going to eat it because the insurance company is not going to pay me on it. So that's just, you can do it, but how long can you do it for, kind of thing. So
yeah. Well, most body shop owners, in my experience, are not business people.
Right.
Just aren't.
Right.
They are that they just don't know the ins and outs of business and how to run it. I actually at one point had an employee that almost quit. Mm-hmm. This is my third year in. I had a technician that just had this old school mentality, and our average RO at the time, I think, was like $5,000 or $6,000, and we had a bunch of big hits, and we were scheduling cars out, and I remember he almost quit because he didn't have enough cars outside waiting. Well, man, you got 3 cars inside that are $10,000 a piece. Mm-hmm. I said, and the profit on them are higher.
Right.
We might not be doing 20 at $500, but we're doing it. And it was almost like I was speaking a different language.
Yeah.
Couldn't compute. And I do that far too often. I mean, you have cars lined up around the block, and yet if you don't know that selling a hot dog for $1 while buying it at $2 is not going to end well. I don't care how many thousands of hot dogs you sell,
Right.
And again, that goes back to what we see with the square peg and the round hole. I see too many times you try to become more efficient and you try to get better discounts on parts and better discounts on materials than just facing and just facing the reality that you need to charge more. And not only do you need to charge more, when you're not charging more, you're stressing the system, you're stressing your tools, equipment, you're stressing your technician, your entire system process, and ultimately your customers feel it. And the reality, just charge what it takes to repair a car. When I hear people talking and bitching and moaning about labor rates, and they're like, I'm just like, well, just charge what you need to charge then. You're the business owner. Who else could make that decision other than? But the reality,
but they don't know.
But I was just about to say, the reality is most people don't even know what they should be charging.
Correct.
Or what, or more importantly, what it costs to operate your business.
Right.
So it's almost like this rigmarole of getting in line and just following what everyone else is doing. Okay, is everyone complaining about this? Okay, I'll complain about this.